From the government agencies that oversee air travel to public health to criminal justice, a new sweeping effort to dismantle federal programs focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion.
The country is going to be based on merit again. Can you believe it?
President Trump making good on a campaign promise, giving agencies just 60 days to get rid of all DEI positions. A new government memo directing federal agencies to place all DEI employees on paid leave by this evening.
Nice to see you.
It's the latest move in a sweeping effort to clean house, surpassing the typical turnover when a new president and a new party take power, aiming to remake the federal government in the image of President Trump's Make America Great Again movement. Just minutes into his new term, President Trump seemed to be warding off fears that a vast campaign of retribution was on the way.
Never again will the immense power of the state be weaponized to persecute political opponents.
But what followed in the first 48 hours of his presidency may tell a different story, using some of his first strokes of the pen from the Oval Office to make it easier to fire federal employees and to take aim at perceived enemies, like Mark Milley, the former Joint Chiefs of Staff general who went through a major public falling out at the end of Trump's first term. Milley's portrait, less than a week old, was taken off the walls of the Pentagon in the hours after Trump's swearing in, following a preemptive pardon from President Biden. Just after midnight on Tuesday morning, President Trump saying his first day in office wasn't over yet, writing 1,000 presidential appointees left over from the Biden administration were on their way out, including celebrity chef and humanitarian Jose Andres, a Biden appointee on the Council of Sports, Fitness, and Nutrition. President Trump using a tagline from his apprentice days, saying, "You're fired." The only problem, Andres replied, his term was up. He'd already resigned. But it's not just well-known names on the chopping block. The president firing the TSA administrator, one of his own appointees from the first Trump administration, and canning the leader of the Coast Guard for her apparent failure to address border security threats and an excessive focus on DEI initiatives. Still, the president appears to be focusing much of his efforts on the day-to-day workers in the Justice Department, moving to dismiss 4 top DOJ officials who oversee the country's immigration courts, one of them saying she was shocked and disappointed by the move. Nearly 24 other senior Justice Department staffers reassigned to other jobs. Other officials apparently seeing the writing on the wall. Top employees at the U.S. Attorney's Office, the Bureau of Prisons, and the FBI resigning or stepping back from their roles in the days after Trump took office. The president clearing a path for the most loyal of loyalists to take on big jobs, like Kash Patel, Trump's pick to lead the FBI, who's echoed false conspiracy theories around the 2020 election and promised to take on the so-called deep state, journalists as well as civil servants perceived as Trump's enemies.
All these people have clearances. They all still have clearances. Gone. I mean, the list will be massive.
Also, Ed Martin, a conservative activist and prominent member of the Stop the Steal movement, now in charge of the U.S. Attorney's Office in D.C., which oversaw hundreds of cases related to the insurrection. While the start of every administration brings turnover, these actions by the president, just days into his latest term, appear on the verge of something unprecedented. Typically, when a new president is elected, most of the 93 U.S. attorneys from the previous administration resign and their deputies serve in an acting capacity until a replacement is nominated and confirmed. That's just one example of normal turnover. This time, the Trump administration seems to be quickly placing its picks to serve as acting federal prosecutors in some key posts in New York and Washington, with the promise of more sweeping changes to come, Hallie.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.